We'll go ahead and get started then. And thanks everybody for joining us today for session 2 of our Texas Quality Matters Consortium Connections Conference. This session is titled Supporting Equitable Online Student Success. I'm Judith Sebesta. I serve as the Executive Director of the Digital Higher Education Consortium. And just to let you know, we do have auto captioning available. So if you click on the CC logo down at the bottom towards the right of your screen, you should be able to enable those auto captions. And of course, I'll be monitoring the chat in Whova if you have any questions, or if we have time at the end, you could unmute yourself if you'd like to ask our amazing speakers your questions. So without further ado, let me introduce them briefly and turn it over to our speakers from the Lone Star College System, Alex Suchon, Ericka Landry, and Rene Arnold. I'll let you all take it away.
All right, thank you, Judith. Thank you for having us. So this is our session. It is supporting equitable online student success, and we're going to focus on our quality enhancement plan called LSC-CORE. And Judith just did a wonderful job in introducing us, but once again, I'm Alex Suchon. I am our manager of instructional design at the college in our Lone Star College online department.
My name is Ericka Landry. I am the Director for Faculty Development at Lone Star, and I work with all of our 8 campuses in Lone Star College.
And good morning. My name is Rene Arnold, and I am the manager of our LSC-CORE, which is our QEP, Quality Enhancement Plan. LSC-CORE stands for Commitment to Online Resources and Equity, and happy to be here.
All right, so quick little bit about Lone Star College in case you're not familiar with us. We are located in Houston, Texas, so kind of more on the north side of Houston. We have 8 campuses. We have kind of 7 physical campuses, so 7 like actual locations, and they actually have, I think we have 12 centers that are kind of associated with our physical campuses. And then we just recently added an online campus that will open this fall. Lone Star College actually serves 90,000 students. So we are a very big system here at Lone Star. What we're talking today about is our Lone Star College QEP, which is our Quality Enhancement Plan a little bit. And we're going to kind of rope in how Quality Matters is actually kind of embedded in this plan. And this is a little bit of an overview of how we ended up with the plan that we're going to talk about, which is LSC-CORE. So it was a topic that we identified through an ongoing comprehensive planning and evaluation process. And Rene was so wonderful to put this slide in here about how many people participated in this process to develop our QEP. You know, we had about 1,494 participants, including students, over 7,000 responses, you know, over 4,500 responses from the students. And really kind of at the focus of our QEP was really that kind of bottom question we have there is, what is the major issue Lone Star College needs to address to improve student learning and experiences?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about LSC-CORE, Commitment to Online Resources and Equity. So I'll say CORE going forward. And basically this is a framework of how we actually implemented this great beast of an equity institute. So basically what we did is we wanted to make sure that we were in alignment with QEP and what they were requesting from SACS. And it basically, we were seeking to provide support and resources for our TAP teams. You're going to hear me say TAP a lot. And if you see the red circle, that's for tutors, advisors, and professors. So that's basically a support network that we wanted our students to have as they succeed and progress through with working with these groups, because this is a very critical piece of making sure that our students are successful. If you notice at the bottom of the screen, we have 7 core classes and that they are online focused. These are courses that we wanted to make sure that we provide professional development through this Equity Institute. And if you notice under the Equity Institute, once they complete this process, there's actually a certification. So the Foundations of Equitable Learning certification is a piece of this. And the participants would apply, they work collaboratively as a TAP team to create this network for students. The 7 courses listed on the graphic represent high enrollment, gateway, and first-year courses across various disciplines which were identified as having concerning success disparities. The QEP expands sections over multiple years, ultimately resulting in all online sections of these courses being supported by these TAP teams. So we're going to focus a little bit more on the instructional specialization piece today. Faculty and instructional designers went through this as far as the Quality Matters piece and the communities of practice, which I'll talk about later. But we also had several sessions that included the advisors and tutors, which is the student support side. So we have the instructional and the student support side to help these students succeed. And as you notice, we have TAP. I've broken it down here. And if you notice, we pulled out the professor piece, which is the online course section for the professors, because Quality Matters and the communities of practice, which is what we're focusing on today, is our main focus. One thing I noted that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned is the ultimate goal was to build wraparound network services for students to give them multiple connectors to success, which is why we actually created this here. So I'm going to turn it over to Rene to talk a little bit about our numbers.
All right. Hello, everybody. We actually, we are really fresh out of completing our first year pilot. We just completed the implementation of the program. It was an extremely aggressive endeavor in rolling out the pilot to all 7 of the campuses. In the fall, we will add our 8th campus, the LSC Online campus. So when we look at TAP by the numbers, we successfully involved 90 TAP team members. And again, those were, 7 campuses, which consisted of 24 tutors, 19 advisors, 47 professors in 3 of our gateway courses, which is our Education 1300, which is first year experience, our English 1301, and Math 1314. This included 66 online sections with the impact of over 1,400 students. It was very aggressive and we learned a lot. And so one thing I will share with you is that we received our SACS approval for this in October 2021, October 26th, and we actually implemented this in January. So again, we wanted to get started and allow an opportunity for us to pilot this, and we did learn a lot, which we'll get into later. Now, when we look at what our QEP was about, we had 2 main goals. The design committee recognized the intersectionality and marginalized identities, looking at gender, socioeconomic status, first generation students, and that contributed to modality inequities across racial and ethnic identities. As a result, the focus of our committee chose to frame the goals of the QEP as creating equitable student success outcomes across modalities and race and ethnicity. Our multidisciplinary LSC-CORE QEP project was centered on 2 specific student outcomes. 1, racially minoritized and online students in the QEP courses will experience equitable course success course success rates. And 2, racially minoritized and online students in the QEP courses will experience equitable subsequent semester persistence. So we're focused on their course success rates and their persistence rates in those identified courses. And in this example that we have here, looking at English 1301 and Math 1314, and you can see an example of the data that we analyze with respect to the course success rates amongst our different racial and ethnic groups and the course modalities. Again, the success rates in online classes were substantially lower than our face-to-face courses, anywhere between 10% to over 20%, significantly lower, which is similar to our EDUC 1300. So again, this was our number 1 focus there. On the next slide, there you go. We look at, we were intentional in not only relying on just focusing on the diversity gaps, leaning in. Can you all hear me? I got muted.
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Okay. So we were intentional on not only relying on just focusing on the diversity gaps. Okay, it's not just about diversity. Instead, our group decided to dive deeper in learning how more race conscious and being intentional about addressing race inequities, while still being sensitive and not just focusing on the gaps. It was an effort to not create any deficit concepts amongst any student groups. We didn't want to just focus on their ethnicity, and we didn't want to go into deficit thinking. A main reason for us to use a target range is that we are seeking and not just hoping that one group catches up with another, but we are seeking that everyone is able to perform within each range of the target range. 77% to 82% is our persistent rate goes. So again, we know with COVID, all of our students were impacted, but again, our data showed us that we needed to focus on these two goals.
Thank you, Renee.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Equity Institute, because I'm so glad that Renee brought up the information about just starting in October of last year. and I know all of you are educators, so you know that to fast track something like this beautiful graphic that we have here was a great feat. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done, and I look forward to where we're going in the future. So I want to just talk about a few things here. I love this graphic. It's busy, it's a lot of information, but I'm going to point out just a few things. First thing is, as being a director for faculty development, I love to see how we have included the student success and instruction. That's huge. A lot of colleges, we always have the silos, we work in this office, but we actually came together. Secondly, I want to point out the Equity Institute. So we have 3 tracks. If you look at the top arrow, Foundations of Equitable Learning, FELC, we like acronyms. Secondly, Instructional Specialization, which is what we'll be focusing on today. And then the 3rd track was the Student Services Specialization. And within these 3 tracks, we had around 13 sessions total, and you can see all the dates here. And this contributed to about 15 hours of training for our faculty, advisors, and professors. So, with them doing their regular job and also doing this work and this training, and it wasn't, I guess it was voluntold, maybe we can say, not totally volunteer, but we did have people that were going to be teaching and working with these classes. And it was such a great experience. So I'm going to just look at the middle instructional section. Quality matters. Alex is going to talk about that in just a moment. Applying the QM rubric. I was in charge of working with the group for communities of practice, and we focused on SOAR, which is strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So we actually had just a little learning community. So it was talking about what worked well, what didn't work, and things that we could do better going forward. And we also had a contractor come in to talk about every learner, everywhere digital learning. So these are all the pieces that went together with the Equity Institute.
Can I share one real quick note? One thing that we did also, if you look at the top row, the first 2 sections, 2 courses on cultural competency and mindset, one of the things that we did was we actually embedded those courses into our learning management system, D2L. We use Brightspace D2L because we wanted the faculty, the tutors, and the advisors to have the same experience that our students have. So they literally, professors who are used to having full access and control, they were in student mode and had to take the courses in the D2L, and it was eye-opening.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that piece. I actually work with faculty, and I have a group inside of the learning community, and it is very eye-opening, but it's a good experience so that they can see what the students will experience and know all the different components. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Alex to talk about our QMR, which I love.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Landry. So I actually work with faculty just as well. I'm coming from the instructional design side, so I work with faculty more from that perspective. How do they develop their online courses? And so one of the reasons we embedded the APPQMR into the LSC-CORE, our QEP, is it introduces that quality online course design to those faculty who are participating in TAP. And in turn, it supports achieving those equitable student success outcomes, at least in my experience. And I don't know about Renee's experience and Dr. Landry's experience, but sometimes faculty, they develop courses without necessarily thinking about the best practices that go into their quality course design. So when we're talking about equitable student success in an online environment, APPQMR was one way we can introduce, hey, these are some of the best practices, some of the better components that you can put into your course to help ensure student success. One of the other reasons that the APPQMR got embedded as part of LSC-CORE was we have in-house facilitators, including myself and Dr. Landry, and we're able to facilitate the APPQMR workshop in-house for our faculty, and therefore becomes a more cost-effective way to deliver some of that professional development under that instructional specialization track. All right, and so it's a little bit about our participation in APPQMR throughout LSC-CORE. What I help work with Renee with is kind of coordinating some opportunities for the faculty to take the APPQMR. We offer them virtual, both the virtual and the face-to-face session options, and the majority of the faculty ended up choosing a virtual option at a time that worked best for them. So for this pilot group, we ended up offering 3 virtual sessions for the faculty. And what shows here is that we have 20 out of the 47 faculty completed the APPQMR workshop during the pilot group, but actually additional 16 had completed it prior to the participation of TAP. So really we ended up with about 37 out of 40 faculty who had completed the APPQMR workshop in total, who were participated in the faculty, or participated as faculty during our core pilot. And some of the things, like I was reading through our evaluations as a facilitator, and what faculty got out of taking the APPQMR. And honestly, the biggest, strongest point is that they had that desire to actually implement the QM rubric and the concept of alignment in their course. For some, it was kind of an overwhelming to do the workshop in an 8-hour environment, the 8-hour workshop in that virtual environment. But for me as a facilitator, I was happy that they walked away knowing that they wanted to implement the rubric in their courses, that understood that concept of alignment to kind of build their courses out, so they can kind of think about what are they doing well, what do they maybe need to improve on and revise in their courses. Even just yesterday, I received an email from one of the TAP faculty members asking to kind of work with me on embedding those QM principles and best practices in their course. And so hopefully, I didn't get a chance to tell you, Renee, but yesterday one of them reached out, and which is awesome. They're teaching online courses, do the online campus we're starting in the fall. So I know that maybe they don't always have the ideas immediately after, but they've let it digest, and now they're thinking about how can I implement the QM rubric in my course. A couple of the other comments that they enjoyed about the APPQMR workshop is that introduction to Bloom's taxonomy was useful.
That's great.
And Renee took it with me. She was actually one of our participants. So that was one of the comments that I received as far as the feedback, is that some of them that was the first time exposure to them for the Blooms. And so it was kind of helpful them to think about the objectives in their course, since most of you might be familiar with that, at least as far as our community college courses are concerned. The student learning objectives are set at the THECB level, at the state level. So how do you kind of work with the student learning outcomes that are set by the state, and then kind of build outcomes and objectives and outcomes into your own course at kind of that module level? So they really enjoyed that Bloom's taxonomy lesson and content. And then really part of the session too is they enjoyed being able to collaborate with other TAP members from the other campuses. As earlier, we are a very large system across North Houston, and so we have 7 physical campuses, and not everyone has the opportunity to always collaborate and connect with instructors who are teaching the same course or even different courses from across the system. So one of the things they do really enjoy is that we had we had open communication throughout the virtual workshop, the synchronous workshop, but also they went into breakout rooms, and they enjoyed being able to talk to one another if they're teaching math or English, or sometimes I mixed up the group. Sometimes I, put English and math and the EDUC 1300 courses together. Sometimes I put just the math people together, but they really kind of enjoy getting to hear from one another, their perspectives and their experiences throughout the process. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Rene here.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it was a good experience for me because I'm an adjunct. Ericka's an adjunct. When you're an adjunct, I started as one and I continue to be one. And so I was like, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. But it was eye-opening for me. And it really helped me to improve I just did a class last semester. And it actually already I was able to apply and enhance, some of the things that I was already using. And so with that kind of is a great segue into just the overall experience. And that's what I want to wrap up on the overall experience. We have another slide.
Here, I'll see if I can pull that.
Yeah, let me share. Sorry about that. We have another slide that we wanted to share for the wrap up, just to kind of pull together the whole experience. We had, like I said, we literally just May 6th had our closeout event. We brought together all of our TAP members to share. Can you, Alex,
I've got it up here.
Okay, cool. Where we brought everybody together, and it was an opportunity for them to come together and share, what went right, what didn't, how they felt about everything. And so they actually shared artifacts. We asked them to share artifacts from their experience, and they did some really great things of sharing. They came together as TAP team members. We had all the tutors, all the professors, all the advisors come together and share what they learned from the experience, how it went in incorporating this, what they've been learning through the Equity Institute into their courses. And so it was really a great opportunity. And one of the things that with the pilot, as you know, it's an opportunity for you to learn as early as you can, as much as you're going through the implementation phase. And we learned a lot. And a lot of things will change. We are making some course directions, and we are enhancing some of the things. One of the biggest things is we'll have more time to implement this as it should be over 2 semesters. So it will go fall to spring. And so for the next cohort that's coming through. But throughout all of this, it was all about our opportunity to assess our achievement. And so while this was the pilot, we still learned a lot. And LSC-CORE was designed using a dynamic, multifaceted approach to measuring, enhancing, and applying the learning. We will implement a continuous feedback loop, assess program efficacy, and includes evaluating each program component. And so at every opportunity, we provided our opportunity for them to give us feedback. Throughout all of the sessions, they provided feedback and evaluations, discussion posts. And so we are looking at everything from a quantitatively approach as well as qualitative. The assessment component is we'll start the comprehensive conversation around specific equitable outcomes that we have achieved so far. We want to have the answers to questions such as, did we hit the annual benchmarks? Did we accomplish what we intended to accomplish? Did we impact our students by setting up the best practices within our organization? And so our goal is to establish a healthy balance of ongoing assessment processes for both components, the TAP teams and the Equity Institute, to help us move that needle. And so when you look at our assessment, it's divided into short-term and long-term plans. So the short-term will consist of periodic assessment by means of pre and post survey assessments with our participants and students. They were asked in the last session to complete an action plan, and we actually taught them, we incorporated an action plan that used a tool from the communities of practice, SOAR. So we wanted them to do self-reflection on, their strengths, their opportunities, their aspirations, and their results. Ericka was one of our facilitators for that. And we actually took them through the steps of having them self-evaluate. How did they do well as an individual TAP team member and collectively? And then we also introduced SMARTY goals. And SMARTY goals, we're all familiar with SMART goals, being specific, measurable, action, and results oriented, and then timely. Well, we added the additional, it being inclusive goals and equitable goals. And so that went over well. And in that action plan, they developed 3 specific goals that they plan to implement in the following school year. And then at the end of the year, they will provide us with a 1-year report. And so we're excited for this opportunity to deep dive, and we will now hold on June the 13th, our first annual data summit, where we will literally deep dive into all of this data to see how we're doing and going forward. And I think I'm at 11:55. So thank you for the opportunity for us to be here today. And I will turn it over to Judith at this point.
Rene, thank you so much. That was perfect timing, and what an amazing presentation on an incredibly complex, but really well-organized initiative. So thanks to all 3 of you, Ericka, Alex, and Rene. And I think we have a break now before our speed networking session. Remember, there's going to be a raffle for an Amazon gift card. So if you're in there for more than 10 minutes or more, so please join us there. And thanks again to our speakers today. Everyone, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.